Well, never one to be outdone by Royal Caribbean, Carnival Corporation finally getting some cruise ships back in the game. And the cruise scene down here in Florida, well, it's a mess. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Cruise News Show. I'm your host, Tony, here with today's cruise news updates. Well, let's kick it off by talking about cruising in Florida and some of the conversations that are going on here. It's budget time again at the Port of Tampa, and they did an oopsie, I suppose. They're doing the best that they can, but they met recently saying that, we said we would probably have cruise ships here in April of 2021. Well, that's not happening, and now we're not sure if we're going to have cruise ships here until the fall or maybe even 2022. It's a CYA thing. It's a cover up your booty. These managers that are in charge of the port, they have to develop a budget. And if you've worked anywhere before and you're in charge of the budget, the goal is to meet your budgetary numbers. And what's tricky right now with cruising is you can't do it. You don't know when cruising's going to happen. Port of Tampa, the Carnival Paradise is a staple at the Port of Tampa. They had that thing slotted as making them some money this year, and then Carnival came out and announced that they weren't going to have the Carnival Paradise until after it came out in dry dock in June. Of course, cruises have been canceled in April. There's still Carnival cruises in May, but I don't think there's any slated for the Port of Tampa. And so the Port of Tampa, the officials there are saying, we need to adjust the budget down. $1.8 million that we thought we were going to get from port fees for at least like the Carnival Paradise, it ain't going to happen. And let's just go ahead and say we don't know whether or not cruise ships will be here this year at all. Now, does that mean that cruise ships won't be there at all this year in Tampa? No, I don't think that's what we can take away from that. I think the thing that we can take away is, in an uncertain time, it is better to under-promise and over-deliver. And so you have these guys reworking their budget, and it's probably just easier to say no cruising in 2021. That way they're not on the hook if they put something in the line item. Port of Tampa adjusting their budget makes sense. I don't think it means, though, that there's not going to be any cruising in 2021, but I think it's just some managers over there trying to make sure they don't overcommit on their financial budget. That story's not too wild. That story makes sense, but the story that is getting kind of crazy is the battle over cruise ships in Key West. If you remember, a local organization in Key West garnered enough signatures to get 3 items on the vote on Election Day in 2020. These items limited the size of cruise ships that could come to Key West. It limited the amount of cruise passengers that could embark into Key West on a daily basis. And one of the referendum items gave leeway to the folks there in Key West to decide which cruise ships could dock there based on their environmental record. Well, a state senator here in Florida, Jim Boyd, took exception to this referendum in Key West and cried foul. His contention is the local municipalities down there in Key West should not have the ability to cut off commerce that affects the entire state of Florida. This is what the debate is. This is what's happening right now. The conversation landed in the Florida Senate Transportation Committee yesterday, with both sides arguing their position. Of course, the position of Senator Boyd is that the state should have authority over all cruise ports in Florida, and the folks down there in Key West arguing that they should have local authority over their port. Now, the main organization that organized and led the ban on cruise ships in Key West, the Key West Committee for Cleaner, Safer Ships, led by Arlo Haskell. Arlo Haskell, he was there yesterday at the committee meeting, and he came out with an argument I had not heard previously. He put it on COVID, that they only have 1 hospital, that they only have 8 ICU beds, and it would be irresponsible to let large cruise ships there because of COVID. And I think there could be some validity to his point, but it doesn't seem like that's what they were talking about when this initiative was first initiated. I kind of remember those original talking points being around environmental concerns, fishing concerns, tourism concerns, the concerns that cruise tourists don't spend as much money as local tourists or tourists that drive or fly down to Key West. But yeah, interesting inclusion of the COVID. Let me leave it at that. Another major discussion in that committee yesterday is, should this be something that is legislated through law, or should this be taken care of through the court system? Of course, Senator Young has proposed a bill which would essentially overturn the vote down there in Key West. The contention of the folks in Key West is that this should be worked out through the court system. And up until this point, all the courts have sided with the folks in Key West, so I can see why they're advocating for that. They didn't vote on it or anything yesterday. They called yesterday kind of an open workshopping session to get the details out there to understand better what they're talking about. The full session of the Florida Senate does not take up until March, and it will probably be until March that we hear more resolution about this. But there is a fight going on about Key West in the Florida State Senate. Real quick, do you enjoy staying up to date on all the cruise news? Do you like to be connected to that cruise life? I would invite you to be a part of this virtual cruising community. The way you do that is by subscribing to this YouTube channel with the notification bell on. There's no cost to subscribe. It's just the click of the button, and then every time we post new information, you get notified on your phone or on your computer or by email or by carrier pigeon, whatever notification option you've chosen. That's what you will get. Do it today so you don't miss out on any of these episodes. Thank you in advance. Now let's talk about the two cruising juggernauts, Royal Caribbean Group, Carnival Corporation. This is like the Coke and Pepsi of cruising. This is like the McDonald's and Burger King of cruising. Countless internet arguments have been had over which of these cruise companies is the best. And interestingly, right now, as we sit here in February of 2021, of those two cruise companies, only one of them has paying cruises going. Royal Caribbean's Quantum of the Seas has been in service in Singapore for the last, I feel like 6 weeks. They've been doing sailings, cruises to nowhere in Singapore. Quantum of the Seas making money for Royal Caribbean. So one has to scratch their head. Carnival Corporation, that's a global company. When will they get in the game? When will they have a cruise ship sailing with paying passengers? Well, the answer to that question is March. Carnival Corporation announcing that Costa Smeralda will be doing 3 and 4 day sailings around Italy, mini cruises they're calling them, and then occasionally doing a 7-day Western Mediterranean cruise to get things kicked off. In addition to Costa Smeralda, on May the 2nd, the Costa Luminosa will return to service, servicing Greece and Croatia on 7-day itineraries. Now we know that there still are some challenging numbers with the virus in Italy, in Greece. How is Costa doing it? They've been working closely with the government. They have their own Costa Healthy Cell protocols that they've submitted to the government that they've been approved. These protocols, not unlike other protocols that we've seen, they include a swab test, daily temperature checks, social distancing, a masking protocol where necessary, standard fare, what we like to call a safe cruise bubble, and the government has signed off. I did take a quick look at the data for Italy for yesterday and at the United States for yesterday. Italy around 10,000 new cases, the US 64,000 new cases. So while Italy's number is smaller, if you compare that with the total population, we're tracking a similar number. So it's an interesting situation. You see the cruise lines working with the government in Italy, able to restart cruising even during these challenging times. It begs the question, what's the missing component for cruises to restart in the United States? And we've said it before, as we continue to drive our numbers down, hopefully that cooperation between the cruise lines and the United States will eventually yield some cruising here. But Carnival, not content sitting on the sidelines while Royal is making that bag over there in Singapore, they want to get their paying passengers on board also. And who's sitting back and looking at all of it saying, we've been making money for a while? MSC. How about that? MSC, possibly the Rodney Dangerfield of cruises. Interesting stuff. What do you think? The question for the comments is this. What do you think about Tampa saying maybe no cruises until 2022? Do you think that's real, or do you think they're just trying to make their budget? What about this fight going on in Florida? Who's right? Is it a state thing? Is it a Key West thing? And how do you like this competition between Carnival and Royal Caribbean? Who will lead the day MSC, I don't know, leave a comment below. Now, every day I'm here talking to you about things that are changing in that cruise life, but there are things when you go back to cruising, things that definitely will not change. I did a video about it. Make sure you check that out. It might give you some comfort, and there's an interesting challenge in that video. Check that out. This is Tony for Lido Loca. Show your support by hitting the like button, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido. Bye.